Hey there, welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to jump right in and unpack exactly how everyday savings can literally transform into serious wealth. To kick things off, let's meet two identical savers who are living on totally different financial planets. Imagine for a second you've got a savings account you're, quietly proud of. You built it up one paycheck at a time, and it's just sitting there as proof that you did everything right. Right, so here are our two savers. Let's go ahead and call them Greg and Grace. Now, they have the exact same salary and saved for exactly 10 years. We're talking same company, same job title, they even live in the exact same apartment building. But here's where it gets crazy. Greg has $41,000 sitting in his account, but Grace ended up with over $300,000. That is over $250,000 more with the exact same paycheck and the exact same decade of discipline. No way, right? So naturally, we have to ask, what on earth did she do differently? Because when you look at a huge gap like that, your brain instantly searches for some sort of unfair advantage. But honestly, it wasn't a magical stock pick, she didn't inherit some massive windfall, and she didn't get a secret promotion that Greg somehow missed out on. It actually all came down to a single, simple decision she made on one specific afternoon 10 years ago. You see, saving money isn't the finish line. It's really just the on-ramp, and almost nobody actually merges onto the highway. Okay, let's talk about the silent theft of inflation, which is the math that nobody really wants to hear. A dollar you saved back in the year 2000, it buys only about 51 cents worth of actual stuff today. Half of its value has completely evaporated. And not because someone stole it, but just because prices climbed every single year, while your dollar just sat there proud of itself, doing absolutely nothing. Cash totally feels safe because the number on your screen never drops. But let's be real, safe and shrinking are definitely not the same thing. And this is exactly how the wealthy view their money. They don't see cash as a stagnant puddle where it just slowly shrinks over time. Instead, they view it as a waiting room. Think of it like this. Every dollar that lands in your checking account is essentially an employee just sitting in a chair in that waiting room, waiting for a job assignment. When you look at real-world behavior, the data is genuinely startling. The bottom half of the country relies heavily on depreciating assets. Often, their biggest asset is a car that literally loses value every single time they turn the key. But look at the top 1%. They hold their wealth in things that grow while they sleep: businesses, stocks, and income-generating real estate. And notice their cash habits? They keep a mere 2% of their wealth in cash. Everything else is out there working. So, let's break down exactly how they do this with the 4-step investing machine. The wealthy actually have a specific system for what happens to a dollar after it's earned, rather than just letting it pile up like dirty laundry in a checking account. This is their core sequence. It's a really straightforward, non-intimidating 4-step blueprint that turns an everyday saver into an investor. We've got the line, the order, automation, and the index fund. It's not some grand secret, and it certainly isn't complicated once you see it laid out. Step 1 is the line, which is basically your emergency fund. Now, the traditional advice you always hear is to save 3 to 6 months of living expenses so a broken car doesn't completely detonate your life. But instead of treating that number as a final savings goal where you can finally kick back and relax, you have to treat it as a strict, hard border. Everything up to the line stays in cash for safety, but everything beyond it, that must be pushed right over the edge into growth. Just look at the visceral cost of hesitation here. Greg spent years building up to his safety cushion, but when he finally hit it, he just camped on the line. He just kept saving into that same stagnant account. And by doing that, by just camping on the line, Greg missed out on roughly $260,000, all for the crime of doing absolutely nothing on purpose, very responsibly. Grace, on the other hand, she hit that line, spent maybe 20 minutes setting up a transfer, and turned her overflow into an absolute river. Okay, moving to step 2. This is the order of operations because, frankly, not all investing dollars are equal. First things first, you grab the free money of an employer match. If your job matches 5%, that is a 100% immediate return on your money before the market even opens. Turning that down is literally like leaving your paycheck in the office fridge. Next up, you crush toxic credit card debt because that's a guaranteed return no investment can ever beat. And finally, utilize stealth accounts like a health savings account, or HSA, where your money goes in untaxed, grows untaxed, and comes out untaxed. It's brilliant. Now for step 3, automation. This part is absolutely crucial. When people have to actively choose to invest, meaning they have to go in, opt in, and rely on their own discipline every month, only 64% actually do it. But when a company flips the switch and makes investing the default, so it just happens automatically, participation skyrockets to 94%. We're talking the exact same people, same paychecks, same discipline. The only difference is that the money just moved on its own. See, automation protects you from your own willpower fading at the checkout screen at the end of a long, stressful day. And even more importantly, it prevents you from panic selling when the market drops. Historically, the average human investor actually underperforms their own investments. Why? Because they get scared and sell at the absolute bottom, and then get super excited and buy at the very top. An automated system doesn't read the scary news, it just calmly buys, every single month, like clockwork. All right, step 4 tackles a very common final trap: choosing your actual investments. People often think investing means picking the right stocks and, predicting the future. It really doesn't. It means buying a boring, low-cost index fund that owns a tiny slice of hundreds of companies. But so many people get lured into fancy managed funds because of what seems like a tiny, totally insignificant fee of just 1%. But let's look at the math here, because it is staggering. That innocent-sounding 1% fee, it will quietly devour $40,000 of your future wealth on a single $10,000 investment left for 30 years. The fee actually ends up being bigger than the amount you even started with. That's insane! And the kicker here is that the overwhelming majority of those expensive professional managers fail to beat the plain cheap index fund anyway. Now that the machine is completely set up, let's look at the engine that actually drives it: compounding. This right here is why the whole process feels like a scam right up until it doesn't. Compounding is literally the world's slowest magic trick. You have to remember, compounding is not addition, it is acceleration. Investing just $500 a month looks agonizingly slow at first. After 10 years, you've got about $86,000. But then the curve bends upward. By year 30, you're at $600,000. And by year 40, your money is accelerating violently upwards past $1.2 million. The growth on the growth is doing all the heavy lifting for you. But you really have to look at the sheer cost of waiting. Consider two people investing the exact same $500 a month at the exact same return. The one who starts at age 25 ends up with $1.37 million at age 65. The one who starts at age 35, they end up with about $740,000. Starting just 10 years later chops your final wealth almost completely in half. Just let that sink in for a second. A 10-year delay isn't just about the $60,000 in deposits that you skipped. That delay is a $700,000 graveyard of future money that simply never had the chance to exist. Those dollars weren't spent on lattes or vacations. They were just never born. So the single most expensive mistake you can make isn't picking the wrong fund, it's waiting to cross the line. Now, before we wrap up today, let's do a quick surplus reality check. We absolutely must look at a structural truth that most financial advice just conveniently skips over. Right now, roughly 59% of Americans cannot cover a surprise $1,000 expense from their savings. More than half report living paycheck to paycheck. And the really uncomfortable truth is this: if your money runs out before the month does, telling you to just automate your investments isn't helpful advice. It's almost a joke told at your expense. You simply cannot invest a surplus that isn't there. Systemic issues like stagnant wages and a skyrocketing cost of living are very real structural barriers that no simple explainer can instantly erase. We have to recognize that the wealthy actually have two distinct advantages. The first is the surplus to deploy, which, as we just said, is indeed a systemic hurdle. But the second advantage is the system itself: the line, the order, the automation, the index fund. That system is not locked behind a paywall. It is simply powerful information. The real tragedy is that anyone with even a small overflow, say just 25 or 50 bucks a week, could use this exact same system. But many don't, simply because nobody ever showed them where the line was. Which leaves us with this final provocative question to ask yourself today as you look at your own accounts. Is your money actively working for you? Or is it just sitting in the waiting room at the edge of the line, waiting for a permission slip it absolutely doesn't need? Will you remain comfortably stagnant like Greg? Or will you choose to step over the line, automate your future, and become Grace? The choice is entirely yours.